How's it going? I'm resident of Collinwood, Joel Sains. This is my buddy Patrick McCray. That's my buddy Daniel Culver. We're here to cover the 1984 classic Dune, and what a movie this is. I have so many questions. Here's one of my biggest ones. What did you guys think of Sting in this movie?
He was,
Awesome. I wasn't really expecting him to be in it. The musician.
Yeah. Yeah.
when the movie came out, that was the thing everybody talked about. That was the big deal. Was Sting's in it.
Oh, I can see that.
And Sting hadn't really established himself as much with the general public as being a figure of the incredible integrity that he would be known for. And so it was like, oh yeah, here's this movie, here's this rock guy in it. And that's selling it short. I think the mania over selling Sting in Dune made people underestimate it and him. So I think he's fine in the film. Now I haven't read the books, so I don't really know how well he represents the character. But I think the Harkonnens have this wonderful kind of variety to them, but they're all perverse. And so Sting and his exhibitionism and so on in the movie works with that, I think, quite well. He's great. Now he is just a cast member in this big thing rather than being the main event, because I don't think Universal had no idea how to market this, and there's a weird story behind that that I'll get into later. But yeah, Sting, yes.
Yeah, like when I've watched this, it was like 92. And my mom's friend showed this to me. And he goes, so Sting's in this movie. And I looked at him at first. He goes, no, not the wrestler. He said the singer. I said, oh, okay. I know who you're talking about now. And I'm thinking, that's interesting. So I'm watching this. I'm thinking, man, this dude, because he's not in the film a whole lot. He's in it, somewhat. He does a hell of a job. I mean, he looks psychotic. He
does. He channels a real Malcolm McDowell kind of intensity.
Yeah, there's that scene where his dad's like getting this like little features done on his face, and he's like sitting there like smiling ear to ear. I'm like, what is wrong with this guy?
The Harkonnens are a very broken people.
Oh yeah, and that's
psychologically.
And you realize that too right away about all of them. It's like, man, these people are fucked up bad.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
But
hello, Thufir. Here's a cat. You must milk the cat.
Oh yeah, that was pretty weird.
Yeah, that's this movie is like. I was listening to Christian Hanna describe this movie because I'd watched it. He said, "Listen, if you're on acid when you watch this movie, it will not hurt you." I'm thinking, I laugh because it's true in a sense.
Have you seen the documentary called Jodorowsky's Dune?
No.
You need to see it. It's about an attempt in the 1970s to make it by this very interesting art film director who wanted to feature his son in the movie and raise his son to be like Paul Atreides to be in the film. Other highlights in the movie include the fact that a lot of the figures this was before Star Wars, who would go on to kind of shape what science fiction movies looked like and felt, all were working on this film. Ron Cobb, who was the visual guy behind a lot of Alien and Star Wars, he was working on the film. Dan O'Bannon, who wrote Star Wars and directed Return of the Living Dead. He didn't write Star Wars, he wrote Alien and Return of the Living Dead. He was working on the movie. So even though the movie didn't get made, it was this fountainhead of, what would be great in so much speculative cinema going forward. The really big stuff. Blade Runner. There were some Blade Runner people I think involved, but it was a crazy film. He wanted Salvador Dali to play Shaddam IV, the emperor. He wanted Orson Welles to play Baron Harkonnen.
Oh, that'd be pretty cool.
And Orson's fee, one of the parts of his fee is that he got to have a meal anywhere in Paris, I think, every day. That was, he just asked outrageous stuff. But he was going to have different prominent rock bands like Pink Floyd do the music for different planets. So when you went to planet this, Caladan or something like that, that would be this band, and when you went to the Harkonnens, that would be that band, and he had H.R. Giger do a bunch of concept art for it, and it's sort of considered to be the greatest movie that never got made, and it's a wonderful companion to this film because David Lynch. One of the reasons David Lynch did this movie, or didn't do another prominent movies for this, he didn't do Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
He was tapped to direct Return of the Jedi, and he was sort of on the fence about it. And then he got offered Dune by De Laurentiis, and he said, "Okay, I'm going to do that." Yeah, there's a lot of awkward stuff with this film because David Lynch disowned it. It got taken away from him before they stopped shooting, and for very political reasons at Universal, and Lynch won't really talk about it or acknowledge it, and that's a very brave thing. It's also a shame, but I direct plays, and I can imagine if a play of mine had been taken out of my hands, and a lot of it was there, but a lot of it was just a perversion of what I had intended. How would I feel when people came up to me telling me how much they loved it? And I'd probably be pretty mad. And the response I would have to Lynch would be, I totally get why this is a painful subject for you. Your vision is so strong in how you made this movie that it's good despite what people did to
That's
it.
true.
And that's something you should feel good about. So much of what you intended came through that it still is a masterpiece.
Yeah. How?
Yeah, Orson
How?
Welles would be a good option too. Like for those that don't
Oh
know,
yeah.
if you ever heard about the 1930s 1930s War of the Worlds broadcast, he was actually the narrator of that.
Yes,
Yeah.
he was, and
Yeah.
the director and the writer. And that sort of the notoriety of that was one of the things that got RKO to be okay with him having total creative control, which was not done back then, over Citizen Kane, where he was 24. He'd never directed a movie before in his life. And his first time out of the gate, he directs the greatest movie of all time. I mean, wow, what a guy.
Yeah, that's true. I hate to admit this, but I still need to get around to seeing Citizen Kane. But I have heard that it's most people consider it the greatest movie of all time. Yeah.
Here's the thing: when I was a kid, and I heard about greatest movie of all time, made in 1939, black and white, sounds like a recipe for the dullest movie of all time. It's this thing where I'm going to have to be super smart to get it, and I'm not, and so on and so forth. For one thing, Wells was a very flashy director. He liked using every camera trick in the book, and the acting style that he wanted from his actors was big and broad and comical. There's a lot more humor in the movie than I think people think. And it is just, you put aside everything you've ever heard about Citizen Kane, it is a wildly entertaining movie. You'll actually walk away saying, I had a really good time. Rather than, oh, is this egghead thing and I didn't understand it, which I think is what a lot of people understandably have when they approach, oh God, the greatest film of all time. So if I don't get it, I'm really stupid. But Orson didn't set out to make the greatest movie of all time. He just set out to make a movie that entertained him. And it's a big, flashy lifestyles of the rich and famous. Rich guy gets decadent and crazy kind of film. And it's really, really fun. That's what people don't get is how much fun Citizen Kane is.
I've seen Citizen Kane like 7 times, and yeah, it is. What's really fun about it is too. A lot of the humor comes from Wells and Cotton themselves, Joseph
Yeah.
Cotton and Orson Welles.
They're great.
Yeah,
They're
they
great.
are. They're so 1-2, like with each other. It's gold. Like it's so memorable throughout the whole film.
Oh yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
It's
Okay.
no. I'm just gonna say it's fun.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. For those who haven't listened to that broadcast, I would actually recommend it. Like, yeah. I think you could find it on YouTube. I don't know if I should be saying that because I think it's still under copyright. But
Which one? Citizen Kane?
Oh, I meant. Sorry. I meant to say. Yeah. War of the Worlds. The
Oh
broadcast.
no, War of the Worlds is fine. There are lots of.
yeah.
I don't know if anyone officially has the copyright. So yeah, I mean you can find that thing all over the internet, and it's a
Okay.
great listen.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah, I actually have an MP3 of it, but yeah, it's pretty good. And actually, it's funny how people fell for that because he said, I think 3 times that it was just a play.
Well, there's a funny story behind that. For one thing, Adam Conover on Adam Ruins Everything kind of outed the fact that some of that retrospective, people committed suicide and all this, it's a little exaggerated for publicity purposes. But the other thing is that radio shows would begin on the hour, on the half hour, and sometimes on the quarter hour. So because it's done as a series of music band broadcasts that get interrupted, um, people ended up listening to the end of some other show and channel surfing, and they came across War of the Worlds after it was already in progress. So they missed the opening credits where Mercury Theater presents Orson Welles' War of the Worlds. They missed that. And so they kind of just stumbled in, 10, 15 minutes into the show. And they're like, what is this? Oh my God, we're being invaded. So that's sort of how that also came about. It's a weird story.
I could see that.
Speaking of one of the best movies, War of the Worlds.
Oh yeah, that's true. Which one? I forget. There's an older one.
The real one, the George Powell one.
Yeah, the George Powell.
What's actually funny is I found out there's 2005 versions of that too. Like there's the one with Tom Cruise, which is the more known one. But there's a company called The Asylum, and they like to make ripoffs. Oh, I mean mockbusters.
Yes, they do.
And they made a version of that too.
Did it
well, because War of the World's out of copyright, so anyone can do it.
Oh yeah, it's true. And yeah, it's kind of funny too about War of the Worlds too is, in case you guys don't know, the writers of the book was named H.G. Wells, but he has no relation to Orson Welles. In fact, it's spelled different.
Yeah, it's Wells with an E and Wells without. Yeah, H.G. Wells was sort of the father of modern science fiction in a lot of ways. Time Machine, Island Dr. Moreau, The Invisible Man, War of the Worlds.
And the original Time Machine's a fun movie too. Like if you haven't checked it out,
it is a heartbreaking film. The thing about that movie that I think most people don't appreciate or remember is that it's a very sad film full of great monologues. Really, Rod Taylor gets to do great stuff. And the music is by a guy named Russell Garcia, who didn't do a ton of stuff, but every score he wrote was aces. And his Time Machine score, I think, is one of the stars of the movie because there's a lot of silence in the film. There's a lot of, the time traveler looking at stuff and taking stuff in. And so that music, which is just both noble and very sad, carries a lot of the film. It's a great score.
Yeah. In this movie, in the movie Dune, the band Toto does some of the music.
Yeah. Yeah, it did Africa.
Yeah. I was really shocked that when I first saw this and rewatching it today, that's something I'm still shocked by. I get they are an 80s band.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, good choice. I mean, I'm surprised. What I'm real shocked by a little bit, and maybe they didn't want to do it because they had Sting, is they didn't use the police at all.
They didn't.
That's something that sort of did shock me about this when I first watched it. But then going back, I'm thinking, Yeah, I think they made the right call here too.
Well, and it legitimizes Sting as an actor
It
because
does.
this isn't some like Hard Day's Night sort of, tie-in kind of thing. It is an autonomous movie where Sting is just there to act. And that was probably nice, allowed him to establish more of his own identity. But Toto does a bang up job. I mean, the music is big and epic. And long before Hans Zimmer was putting in, choruses of electric guitars and things like that to create that huge, rough, epic sound, Toto was doing it for Dune. And the theme to Dune, in the back of my mind, this is blasphemy, but the theme to Dune, if I were doing a Dark Shadows series, I would be very tempted to buy and use it as the theme for the new Dark Shadows movie. It has just this wonderful rolling heaviness to it that I associate with that show, and just a weird cross pollination in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, the opening theme of this is very creepy in a way. So yeah, I'm with you on
It's
that.
creepy. It's big. It's
Yeah.
epic. It's dark. It's romantic. It I think does it for me. It is a very pure expression of how Dark Shadows feels to me.
And it's something that can be used for anything almost.
Oh, it's great. Be a great Dracula theme. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
anything big and dark and regal is served by that piece of music.
Daniel, what did you think of the score, Toto here? The music, some of the music used in Dune.
I thought it was, good. Like you guys said, that was probably a good idea. I honestly wouldn't have mind Sting singing too, though.
Yeah.
I think could have made it work, but
Oh, yeah.
that just didn't happen to be the movie that David Lynch was making.
Now,
That's
I
true.
will say that because David Bowie sings in Labyrinth. So
Yes.
I could have seen them tapping David Bowie to do some stuff, but I mean
Well,
I'm
David
not.
Bowie would have made a good cast member of this movie.
Oh yeah, he would have too. What did you guys think of the Atreides family?
They're everything good. I mean, in the books, apparently they're a little sleazier. That they're involved in some of the political skullduggery and so on. But in this movie, which is its own autonomous creature, they are just this dark, olive drenched. I'm wearing my Atreides colors, by the way. Tribute to everything that's noble in the universe. It is fairy tale good guys.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah. Daniel, what did you think of the
um,
Atreides family?
I agree with what Patrick said. Um, yeah, I'd say he described them pretty well.
Yeah. What's really interesting too is how when you're watching this movie, even going back to see, I really like how the son of Paul Atreides is selling all these different things going on. He knows his dad's going to die, and there's nothing he can do to stop it. Like here's his because his mother's side of the family uh, is like this whole different thing, and like they put his hand in the box because no male has ever like survived the box, and he does. He lasts the longest, and
Well, because
that
it's this female tribe of sort of witches, the Bene
yeah.
Gesserits, and they're not supposed to have boys.
Yeah, speaking of that, as I was rewatching this, you know what I kept thinking, man, where is Laura Parker in this movie?
Sure. Well, now the head Bene Gesserit, Helen Guillaume or whatever she's called in the film. You know who plays that, right? It's
No,
Livia.
maybe.
Livia from I Claudius.
Oh, okay,
It has
okay,
two I Claudius cast members. It has Livia and it has Sejanus.
okay.
Wow.
I didn't recognize her in all that makeup.
Well, and she, she's aged so much in I,
Yeah,
Claudius
that's
that
true.
we get used to her, being this old woman. And we forget that's the age makeup. And in this, yeah, she has the weird bald head and stuff, but she actually looks really beautiful in the film, in terms of her facial structure and so on. And it's a much better representation of her in the movie. And she's just great. She's so intense. It's full of these wonderful Shakespearean actors, Patrick Stewart and Sean Phillips among them.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart, he's in this movie. He's I love how he duels with Atreides' son here a little bit, teaching him how to like, hey, show me what you've learned, and it's like student and teacher, like, okay, you need to show me. And I love Patrick Stewart in this role. I dare say this role prepared him for Jean-Luc Picard in a lot of
Oh,
ways.
I definitely. Um, and Gurney Halleck's a fun guy. He's played by, I think, by Jason Momoa in the new films.
Yeah, he is.
So talk about a leap to go from Patrick Stewart to Jason Momoa. But Gurney Halleck was a big musician in the expanded version, which has more footage that's kind of put together strangely. He's actually playing his instrument, and he was known for singing like lewd songs and all of that, and playing this weird stringed instrument. And you can see him carrying the instrument around, as sort of this ultimate poet warrior.
Yeah. Yeah. What did you think of Patrick Stewart in this movie, Daniel?
Oh yeah, I thought he did a pretty good job, and yeah, I like that fight scene too.
Yeah.
It's a great fight scene. The slow blade penetrates.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what's. Oh, sorry, Daniel. Go ahead.
That's fine. Patrick Stewart. He, as you probably know, he played in Star Trek. I think it was The Next Generation.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jean-Luc Picard.
That's probably what he's on for.
Yeah. He was in
if they ever do a. Okay.
No, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I'm gonna interrupt you again, but it's not really related to this movie, but it would be interesting if they ever did another version of Watership Down. They should consider having him narrate the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's got a voice like you wouldn't believe. And there's a really fun series that Seth MacFarlane did. It was a live action series called Blunt Talk, where Patrick Stewart's very funny because in real life he's a really, really funny guy with a very naughty sense of humor, and he's marvelous in it. It's one of the underrated shows of the past 20 years, and Blunt Talk is very much worth your time.
Was that on
speaking
like,
of okay.
Sorry, was that on like FX or HBO or something?
Yeah, it was one of the. It was, I think it was FX. It wasn't HBO. It was one of the side networks that can get a little sleazier and weirder because they're a little more desperate to get programming, and I like that. That opens them up to some cool stuff.
Yeah. It does.
Oh yeah. Oh, speaking of Seth MacFarlane, have you guys ever seen American Dad or The Cleveland Show?
Yeah, I've seen both.
I've seen little bits of them.
I'm sure you know, but David Lynch plays a character that's basically himself. Like his name is Gus, but it's basically him.
That's great. I mean, Seth MacFarlane has such an amazing bibliography, and I think he's won Emmys or Grammys for his music. He's a vocalist. He's like a Sinatra-style vocalist. Very interesting guy. And if you've never seen the TV show Orville, it's worth your time because it's his version of Star Trek.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty cool.
The first 2 seasons, well, the show gets increasingly dark. I think he wanted to do more of a straight Star Trek, and they wanted more of a comedy, a workplace sort of comedy like MASH in space. And he veers it to be more and more serious. And so the last season is available on Disney Plus. It was made for Hulu, but then I think Hulu was bought by Disney, and they just transferred a lot of the properties over. And it's called Orville New Horizons. It's basically Orville season 3, and it's serious as hell. In 3 seasons, he told more story than some of the Star Trek shows did in 7. He does a really fine job.
Oh yes, the situation with Hulu is kind of complicated. Basically, Disney owned them for years, but they own the half that they didn't have before. Now I guess they fully own it.
I think so.
Yeah, and I think that's why. But another thing I want to mention is actually on the show American Dad, one of the agents, because he works in the CIA, the main character, one of the agents is based on Patrick Stewart, and he's played by him too.
Yeah, his voice. Oh,
That's great. Yeah, McFarlane and Patrick Stewart, I think, are good friends.
yeah,
I could see that.
yeah. It's cool to see like actors get voice work, and like you hear him, it's like that's Patrick Stewart. Yeah, I've
It's a
seen
holiday
him.
for them. They don't have to put on
Yeah.
makeup. They just get to roll in and record the takes.
Did you,
Oh, yeah, that's true.
did you ever see that interview with Richard Dean Anderson? What he said about doing anime? He's like, I
No,
don't.
what did he say?
He's like, I don't have to wear pants for work. I was like,
That's right. That's right. He doesn't have to memorize lines. They have the script right in front of him.
Yeah, I'm like, damn, that's crazy. But what did you guys think of the? First of all, the makeup department, the makeup job on this movie. It's still, for a movie made in 1984, it still looks timeless.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Well, to me that was sort of the highlight, the high point of pre-digital makeup effects,
Yeah.
where there's a lot of these were hand sculpted. There wasn't any 3D printing or anything like that. These were all hand sculpted scars and wounds and things of that nature. And it doesn't always look realistic, but that's not the point. You're not watching realism. You're watching a movie, and it has its own language to it. And when one of the doctors, one of the Harkonnen doctors says, "Oh, your scars are so beautiful, my lord," they do have a weird dark beauty to them. This sense of just overwhelming decadence in their grotesquerie.
Yeah. Daniel, what did you think of the effects department? Effects.
I actually think, I think they did a pretty good job. Like Patrick said, for its time, it was pretty good. I hate to say it, maybe they should go back to like this, because like, I don't know about you guys, but I think these older movies actually look better than this. I haven't seen the new Dooms, but I mean, a lot of these new movies, like you can tell they're fake,
Yeah. And these are real objects in real light. And there is something about that. I mean, when I think of the worms in this film, I really buy their size. I mean, I really accept that these are massive, massive and dangerous and majestic creatures. And those were done by Carlo Rambaldi, who did a really fine job. Really just marvelous. And they shot it in Mexico at the Churubusco, I think, Churubusco Studios, which a friend of mine, it's where they also shot Conan.
Cool.
Like a lot of the Wheel of Pain stuff in Conan. And a friend of mine did the movie Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And he said that the natives were still using the Conan Wheel of Pain to grind corn and stuff, that prop was still around. And it was used. It was used for its intended purpose.
Cool.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Cool.
Oh, yeah. Did you guys ever see the popcorn bucket for the new version of Dune?
No.
I heard legends.
Oh, man. I'm surprised. Like, yeah, it's like, it kind of looks like the creature. I've heard people did weird stuff with it. I don't know if that's true or not, though.
It's a very, the word is the female equivalent of phallic, which is yonic. If you want to refer to something as being vagina-like, the polite way to say it is a very yonic presentation, yonic image. And it was a hell of a yonic popcorn bucket where you're basically sticking your hand down the worm's mouth to get the popcorn out.
Oh,
but
yeah.
it had this kind of tortured vaginal appearance. And yeah, it was a big success. AMC Theater, I think maybe that was Regal that had that. I know around that time, AMC had the oh god, what was it, the Ghostbusters Frozen Kingdom or whatever, and it was the trap that they would roll out, and that was the popcorn box. And these things were very collectible. I'm afraid that the Dune movie may have deep sixed those. We'll see.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, well, I don't know what the Wolverine or Deadpool the popcorn bucket looks like, but
God
it might be really weird.
With Deadpool, it could look like exactly what Deadpool wants it to look like, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that might look weird because I don't know if you guys heard, but there's going to be limited edition Xbox, well, the new Xbox, and yeah, they come with controllers, but you have to win them. That's the problem. But I kid you not, the controller, at least the Deadpool one, I think they made a Wolverine one too. But yeah, the Deadpool one, it looks like it has an ass.
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah. The Wolverine one does too. What it is, it's a pop. You pop it off because if you have an Xbox controller, the batteries go in the back. Okay, so it's a cover for the back. And Daniel's right. It looks just like an ass. It is. So.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's crazy. I love the special effects and the FX. The makeup crew did a hell of a job. And those worms, anytime I think of how big they are, there's three things that legitimately still shock me to this day with movies. One, the shark in Jaws. Two, the worms in frickin' the original Dune. Yep. And three, the worms in Tremors, because all three.
Oh yeah, the graboids.
Yeah, they still look great to this day when you watch those films.
They really do. They really do.
That's what's so cool about this movie. It's like, you're right, when you see the worm swallow that vehicle, it's like, yeah, I believe it. I believe it.
I got to see this movie when it was released on a Cinerama size screen, which was sort of like an IMAX screen, but on its side. So it was really wide image in a theater that sat over 1,000 people. I saw it opening day. And despite the bad reviews and all of that, which were engineered, there's a weird story on that, by Universal, oddly enough, by the very studio that made the movie. They are, the audience was spellbound. And getting to see that sandworm on a screen that size was breathtaking. I mean, it really was. I know that we have big screens now, but everything's stadium, so it all is kind of like, I don't know. It feels more oriented to go up and down, and seeing just that wide image with the sandworms was genuinely, not in an 80s sense, but in an authentic sense, genuinely awesome. It was awe-inspiring.
Yeah, you're right too, because I saw it when I watched it today on my DVD. I took it over to my father-in-law's house, and he has a 55-inch compared to my TV. Mine's way smaller than his. And when I saw the one, I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god, what effects. I really like too how they describe before Paul Atreides' death. You can really tell that he cares.
You mean Leto Atreides, the dad?
Yeah, sorry. Before Leto Atreides dies, sorry. I love how they show how he cares about other people. Again, I've never read the book either. I've only seen the movie and the miniseries and stuff like that. But I really like how they play off the character of Leto in this movie. It's really, really good.
Leto comes off well in all three.
Yeah. Yeah,
he does. Oscar Isaac in the new one, Poe Dameron, and then in the middle one it was William Hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's marvelous.
Wasn't the guy who went on to play Barnabas, didn't he play the son in the miniseries?
Yes, in the Alex something.
Newman?
Yeah, Newman. Alec Newman plays Paul Atreides in the Sci-Fi Channel miniseries, and is perfectly good. I mean, the Sci-Fi Channel miniseries is decent.
Yeah.
It is, for me, the Dune movies have gotten increasingly kind of like, people love the new ones, and I just find them, absolutely no pun intended, a little dry.
Mm-hmm.
I just love there is a sense of life and genuine affection in the David Lynch version that is just it manages to be a very warm movie, which is one of the things I love about it. It is affectionate towards people, and Leto is this wonderful father figure. He's kind and noble and intelligent, and the actor who played him. Did you ever see Das Boot, the movie about the German submarine?
No.
If you haven't, it's one of the best World War II movies ever made, and it's about life on a U-boat. And you know, you can really identify with all of these guys because, you know, these are Navy guys. They're not Nazis. They're not politically oriented. They were in before, you know, Hitler came to power, and they're doing their jobs. You know, they have limited information and they're doing their jobs. And it's a heartbreaking film. It is, if you like military movies, and Joel, I know you do. It is a film well worth seeing. You would really like Das Boot.
Well, I'll definitely watch it because one of my favorite ship sinking of all time is the Lusitania, which was sunk by a German U-boat.
Yeah,
I mean, it's crazy.
It's a very faithful movie. Now, be careful because there's also they made a Das Boot TV series, which is good, but you want to make sure that you're seeing the movie, which was made by Wolfgang Petersen, who later made you know, fantasy movies in English and stuff like that. But before that, he made Das Boot, and it's just this heartbreaking epic of a movie. It's great.
Well, when I wrap this up here, I'm gonna go watch The Stuntman.
Man, you're gonna have a good time. Stuntman's a wild movie.
Yeah.
Oh, is that the movie you're reviewing tomorrow?
Yeah.
Peter O'Toole. It's a good movie. You should be there. It's a good movie.
Yeah. And then I'll probably watch Das Boot. Not tonight, but probably tomorrow.
I'd be happy to talk about Das Boot. It's a good. Yeah, I dated a German teacher for a while, and she corrected me. We get used to saying Das Boot, and I just said it. Technically, it's pronounced Das Boot, or the boat, which is, you know, submarines aren't ships; they're boats.
Yeah.
Is how they're referred to.
I've seen four submarine movies. I've seen the one with Clark Gable in it, I think.
Run Silent, Run Deep.
Yeah. I've seen The Hunt for Red October.
Great movie.
I've seen The Widowmaker, and I saw what's that one movie? Down Periscope, which is a comedy.
That's a good mix. If you saw those and liked them enough to sort of categorize them as submarine movies, which is a good way to do it, you're gonna love Das Boot. It's probably the best submarine movie ever made. It doesn't have the kind of action that Hunt for Red October does. I mean, that's its own wonderful, noble creature. But in terms of just being a good, gritty World War II movie, you can't do better. It is up there with, you know, Saving Private Ryan and Big Red One. It's really good, and you'll love Jürgen Prochnow, who's Leto Atreides. He's the captain in Das Boot. Yeah.
Cool. I'll definitely check it out. Patrick, you answered when you first saw this movie. Daniel, when did you first see Dune, buddy?
Oh, believe it or not, I saw it today.
Cool. And you liked it?
I would say, yeah. I'd say it's more okay, but it's still good. You know, I know it's probably a little complicated. Like it could be better, but I'd still watch it again. You know,
David Lynch would agree with you. He, you know, I've hinted at this. Joel, can I talk about sort of the weird making of this? Well, you know, Lynch was hired to do it, and he had Frank Herbert's blessing. And Frank Herbert saw a cut of the movie and was happy with it before he died. He died before the movie was released, I think, or maybe just after. But he was pleased with it, even though Lynch went off in his own direction with a lot of stuff. Harlan Ellison, the science fiction writer, called it the Gone with the Wind of science fiction films.
Oh wow!
And Ellison was right. What happened though is that there was a regime change at Universal towards the end of the making of the movie, and so one of the things in Hollywood, one of the dirty secrets, is that if you get in charge, you want to make yourself look good as quickly as possible because studio heads don't have a long lifespan. They're kind of like moths. And so they've got to make their name quickly. And so one of the first things you do is that you sabotage the films that were greenlit by the prior administration. And Dune was their big movie. The Universal had a lot riding on this. So when those guys got shown the door, the new guys took it away from David Lynch and wrapped it up very quickly. There were all sorts of effects that weren't finished and all these other things that Lynch wanted to have happen and just didn't happen. But Lynch was contractually obligated to ride along with it for a long time. And it was a very painful experience for him creatively. But the next move Universal did, because this got savagely bad reviews and disproportionate. And what Universal did is that they would do these critic screenings, and they would call the critics, and I think they even had the heat jacked up a little too much. But they would make the critics sit in the theater and wait, because these things were not transmitted electronically like they are now. They were physical reels, and they made the press wait and wait. They said, "Oh, the movie's coming. It's coming in from the developer. It's this and that. Sorry, it's late." And they would keep these critics sitting there for a few hours. And then they would say, "Oh, something happened. We don't have the movie. I'm sorry. You're going to have to come back next week." They did this 2 or 3 times.
Oh, wow.
So by the time critics got to see the movie, it's like they had been Pavlovianly trained to dislike it and to have an axe to grind with it. And it's weird when you would hear their criticisms, because they were unforgiving. And things that they didn't like in this movie, you could hear them saying how much they liked in another movie. And it was because Universal did a masterful job at making them hate this film. They wanted to engineer a flop so they would look better. They could say, "Well, I didn't greenlight Dune."
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That actually explains something I read. I didn't read the whole Wikipedia entry, but I did go on Wikipedia to see which Dune, which year it came out. But it did mention that it flopped, but I didn't read much into it. But it did say it has a cult following and all that now.
It was a huge Christmas release. And there were toys. And there's all sorts of other coloring books. I mean, so to a certain extent, parts of Universal were still trying to promote the movie. I think those things they were sort of obligated to do. They had already kind of been built into the system. But no, but it was the big Christmas spectacle release for Universal. There were 2 big ones that year. You had Dune from Universal, and you had 2010, the sequel to 2001 from MGM. And they gave a pass to 2010, even though it's a very problematic movie, because MGM didn't stab their own film in the back. But God, you could not mention Dune without critics laughing and howling and calling it one of the worst movies they had ever seen. Stuff that bore no relation to this beautiful epic that got made. It was very sad.
Oh, that is pretty sad. And yeah, like I said, I know I didn't sound like too I liked it that much, but it's not bad. That's I might have to give it a second watch just to piss them off.
Do it. You're cheering on the good guys when you do that.
Oh yeah, sure. And yeah, like I said, the special effects are good, but I think one of the problems is might be because of the length, because I'm not really a big fan of long movies, and it's not super long. It's only 2 hours and 10 minutes or something.
Yeah. Maybe it's 2.5. But it feels longer. For me, in the right sense. I mean, it just feels like this is a very dense movie. It's going to a lot of worlds, and even the look of it, I would say, to a certain extent, is so intricate and gold inlaid, and it's almost exhausting to look at. When you look at those scenes in the Emperor's Palace at the beginning, when the Guild Navigators are coming in, it all looks so alien and so intricate and rich. There is an exhaustive amount of detail to keep up with.
Oh yeah, it's true. And actually, all that stuff also kind of explains why, as far as I don't think this one had a sequel, did it?
No. Oh no.
See, I thought that was weird that the remake had a sequel and this one didn't.
Well, the remake sort of is just the first novel, but they split it into 2 parts. So talk about a long movie. You're getting, I think, maybe over 6 hours of Dune. The thing about the new movie to really pay attention to is if you have a very good pair of headphones, or if you can access a good pair of headphones or earbuds that have spatial audio, It is one of the most beautifully soundscaped movies ever made. It's a great thing to test out your sound system at home or something like that. Uh, it's a fantastic sounding movie.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Hey, yeah, like that actually sounds pretty cool. Like, because I know they do have stuff like Bluetooth headsets and stuff.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's you want to see if they have the capacity for spatial audio,
Yeah.
which
Oh, yeah.
actually puts things in different places. And if you lean your head this way, things over in this channel will start to get louder. And you get a very good sense that these things are happening all around you. And the new Dune does a hell of a job with that.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Oh, yeah. If you don't feel bad, guys. I haven't read the book either. Like, honestly, I hate
That's
to admit
okay.
this. I'm not really much of a reader, so
You know,
just assume,
you,
unless I state otherwise, I haven't read the book.
but here's you get to approach the movies from a very pure place because you're not looking at this as an adaptation of a famous book. You're looking at this as a movie, as an autonomous movie standing on its own. So in a way, that makes your reaction to it very pure.
Oh, that's
Did,
true. And actually, yeah, that is a problem. I could see why that might be a problem too. Like, because that's kind of how I am with the Resident Evil movies. I know it's not based on a book, but yeah, the games are, a lot different. So
Pardon
a
me.
lot of these people who have only seen those movies, don't mind them.
yeah.
Sorry, my cat's trying to get out. Lincoln, get away from here.
That's not good. Yeah, Dune, like,
Oops.
yeah. Do you think they're gonna make a part 3 as well of the new ones?
Well, the Herbert wrote, I think maybe 5 Dune books, and then his son wrote a bunch of others. So, uh, given that these were successful, I don't know what's going on, but in sort of the official Dune thing, the first 3 books are really the ones that count: Children of Dune and God Emperor of Dune. So they can keep making Dune movies.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's true. I know these books are not super old, but they're from the 60s.
Yeah,
And,
60s and
and
70s.
what Dune really deserves credit for really is role playing games because it was really one of the first strategy role playing games created. Dune.
Oh,
Was
Um,
it?
yeah.
I don't know that. Wait, you mean like a game like Dungeons and Dragons, right?
Yeah, it was from a like a game standpoint, Dune from a video game standpoint. I think it was one of the first role playing games strategically created, I think.
Interesting. I know that there have been several board game adaptations that are very good.
Yeah.
And in fact, there's a type of game that I really like called a deck builder, which is not like Magic the Gathering, which is a CCG, a collectible card game. Deck builder is a little different. It's like the game Dominion, and it's called Dune Imperium, and it's supposed to be fantastic. It's supposed to be really, really, really good. I've never gotten to play it yet, but I'd like to.
Yeah. Um,
Cheese.
I mean, uh, could you? I was going to ask. Here's something for you, Patrick. Could you imagine if Dan Curtis had did Dark Shadows as a book first and then a series?
Would have been interesting. I don't know who he would have gotten to write it, but it has a literary richness to it.
Oh yeah.
And Laura Parker, I think, maybe, God forgive me, perfected Dark Shadows. I think her books
Yeah.
are so good and
Yeah.
so epic that she basically did a very convincing demonstration of why Dark Shadows should be taken seriously. That
Yeah.
it is bigger than the series.
Yeah, Dark Shadows, the Salem Branch, and Dark Shadows, Heiress of Collinwood. Recommended reading for
Oh
And
sure.
yeah.
Wolf Moon Rising and
I've never read
Angelique's
that.
Descent. There are four books. Oh, read them all because you read the second and the fourth book. So yeah, you're missing. But don't think of it as something you're missing. Think of it
Right.
as 2 great Dark Shadows experiences that you haven't had yet. However, Salem Branch was her favorite of the books.
Yeah, it's really good.
It is good.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I wasn't sure books would really work. I might have to check those out too, but I wasn't sure books really work because, as you guys know, the story arcs are based on books. But
Sure.
he put his own spin on them.
Laura Parker had her master's degree in creative writing. She had an MFA in it. So she was well suited to really illustrate these things. You know what she hated most about writing them? Having to type the name Barnabas over and over again.
Oh yeah, I could see that.
Because she said she never spelled it the same way twice.
Oh wow.
Well, now speaking as a fan fiction writer who wrote Barnabas's name, sometimes that happens, and it's because it's so easy to say and spell, you don't think you're going to misspell it. I did it a couple times.
You make a shortcut. So it's just like star B star or something like that.
Yeah.
And it will go in and replace that. That's what I told her. And she was like, oh, yeah.
Oh,
sorry.
That's actually pretty interesting information. I might have to use that too.
Well, it's really good. You can do phrases. You can do all sorts of stuff as a shortcut.
I'm going to say this about this movie, Dune. I'm sort of glad it didn't get a sequel. I'm sort of that it didn't like become this massive franchise, because Dune 1984 to me is just so good.
It is. Not everything needs a sequel.
Right. You don't always need like a follow-up to a movie. Sometimes one movie is just good on its own. You know, like, don't get me wrong, I like Alien 3, but Alien by itself is great as a movie on its own.
That's true.
When I got out of the movie Aliens, which I really liked, I like both films. They're very different.
Right.
I didn't have a need for any more alien stories. I was satisfied, that they seemed to explore a good range, unless they made the third Alien movie to be as absolutely different and interesting as the first two films are from each other. And they never quite got that.
Yeah. I am curious to see Alien Romulus. So, but we'll see. We'll see if I get to the theaters to go see it. That's
you guys wait for the Blu-ray.
Yeah. That's it. It's going to be a drive for me. Like, theaters, like 25 minutes away. But so with this,
courage.
Yeah. What did you think? What did you guys think of the end of this movie? The big the fight scene between Sting's character and Leto's son. What did you guys think?
It took something really big, and I think it did a good job of shrinking it down to its absolute essentials, which, sometimes the problem with the big battle sequences is who do you focus on?
Yeah.
But
that's true.
By just zeroing in on this mano a mano, two different versions of politics, two different visions of reality and ecology and theology and all these other things, it really hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, I'd say it's a good description of it.
Danny, what did you think of the final fight sequence?
I'd say they did a good job with it.
Yeah.
You were talking about Patrick Stewart's knife fighting stuff at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
And it really bookends that Paul is trained in this, and then it ends up being what he has to do. Without shields or anything like that, which I think also shows how he's grown as a character.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the end of this movie, I've talked about how there's movies that have symbolism in this, and this movie does too, especially at the end when they're doing that knife sequence, and because it automatically sort of takes you back to that, him being trained and how much he's come so far as his own character and had to grow up. I mean, I hate to say kid, he's not a kid, but he's a young adult who literally has to grow up fast.
Well, and now he represents a third culture.
Yep.
Which is the Fremen culture.
Yeah.
So he's kind of gone native.
Yeah.
It's like an American soldier who gets trained to be, fighting a Native American style, or in the Japanese style, like Last Samurai. And that's all, or I guess Dance with the Wolves. I never saw it. But that thing where, someone is trained in one sense, and then they end up getting in touch with something more authentic. that speaks to who they really are. And it's fantastic.
Yeah, Dances with Wolves definitely does that. Good movie. Kevin Costner. But with this, I just love how the fight sequence goes. I love the choreography here. Both actors do a hell of a job, with each other and how they deal with it. Just it's a fun movie. I love the Betty Jenowitz character, the witchcraft characters. They're just those scary. Watching this as a kid, going way back, those characters scared me a bit too. Like, what the?
They're called witches.
Yeah.
And they make Paul's hand burn in that box, or at least he thinks it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not pleasant people.
No. Dude.
And the fact that his little sister is now their most powerful magic user has something interesting going on in that too.
Yeah. It's like, man, the world of Dune is a hectic, crazy, fun place, but you wouldn't want to necessarily live there.
Oh yeah.
Well, it is also one of the most dense science fiction universes. One of the things that came out around the time of this movie was an entire encyclopedia just about Dune. Because at that point you had, Frank Herbert must have written 5 or 6 Dune books. And that's before Brian took over. Chapter House Dune, and I think it was in the 80s that they picked back up. And it was damned impressive.
How'd you guys feel about that needle thing?
The thing that she puts against his neck, the Gom Jabbar.
I meant the thing that was like floating in his room.
Oh, the Hunter Seeker. Hunter Seeker's great. It's a terrifying, drone.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Michael Myers would be proud, and he should be, but because the drone outdoes him. I like how they do the shadow effect on the floor, making it look like a snake almost. Though it's in the air. It's trippy as hell. And David Lynch, if you film that, thank you.
Yeah, that's very David Lynch.
Yeah, I love that scene that Daniel talked about, because it's like he's in his room and he can sort of sense something's wrong. Like, that's what's beautiful about that too. It's like holy. Even when you're watching this back, you're like, oh shit, what's going to happen again?
Well, Paul has psychic powers, because he is the son of a Bene Gesserit, and their prophecy was that a male would really mess things up, because the male could drink the water, and the water basically is what flows through the worm. I think it's like worm pee or something, but it's just full of spice. Yeah. And so the fact that he can do that and peer into these other worlds and death and so on and so forth is absolutely vital.
Yeah. What do you guys give this movie 1 out of 10?
Oh, I'd say 7.5.
Patrick?
I like that you're a tough critic. That makes you very honest, and I really admire that. I, however, am a whore. I love this stuff. I give it a 10. It's for me personally. There's no real room for improvement. It gives me everything I want in a movie that involves a bunch of books I haven't read. But it really gives me everything I want. I have not been that impressed with the new films. They're bigger and they're very beautiful, but they're kind of boring. And this movie is never boring.
Well, I'm the whore of the STD. I'll give it a 10.
Spread the word.
As well. It is what makes the movie so interesting is, you talked about that it wasn't well received, but I'm glad that I got to watch this later. And honestly, when I watched it, my mom, and then they never told me any of the criticisms. That's the first time I ever heard of that at all. And
It was really ugly.
And I could see why they didn't tell me. It's like because they wanted me to have my own like thought of it. And I'm like, man, I love this movie.
The book, Jewel, the book to read, I think it's a book you would really enjoy because it's very much about 80s cinema. Is a book called Watching. And it's by Harlan Ellison, and it's a collection of his reviews that I think were either run in Asimov's magazine or in Fantasy and Science Fiction magazine, one or the other. He was their film critic. And he was the one who had the guts to like the movie. And he's the one who spilled the story on what Universal tried to do to screw everybody over. It is a book that I recommend for everybody who likes movies, but especially movies of the 80s. And it's either called Watching or Harlan Ellison's Watching. But man, it's worth it. It's really excellent.
Is there anything you guys want to add about the movie before we go?
See it?
I'd still recommend, and yeah. And it's kind of funny how this got, bad reviews because of what happened, man. We live in a world where Avatar was highly appraised,
There is not a frame in Avatar that is or a single frame in Dune is better than all of Avatar. I do not like that movie. I think it's racist, and I just think Dune's magnificent.
Oh yeah, I never thought about the racist thing, but yeah, like yeah.
Oh, what you have, it takes a white man in blueface to solve the problems of the people of color.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
If that's not a racist, condescending idea, I don't know what is.
Yeah, it wasn't that good either. Like I hate that. What's the funny part is like it's like highly praised, and a lot of people say that's the greatest movie of all time. What's it's not, but what's funny though is apparently if you ask people who like Avatar, what's the storyline? Apparently a lot of them can't tell you.
I believe it.
Yeah,
I believe it.
Yeah.
And they can't tell you because the movie's plot is bad.
I heard the second one's even worse.
That's what that usually means. Like when somebody can't imagine, not that it happened, but imagine going into a movie that we all know and love, and somebody can't tell you the plot of it. It means that it's just insane because
it's a failure.
You're right. It's like, come on. But people saying, "Oh, that movie is good," and they can't tell you the plot. It's like, dude, if you can't tell me the plot, it means either the plot is bad or you just got a bad memory. So, yeah. Links to Patrick McCray's Dark Shadows Day book about is going to be in the description box. Go pick it up if you haven't already. Link to Daniel Culver's YouTube channel, Killenberg. Go give him a sub. Go check out some of his videos. He's got a ton of videos over there. Horror, Dragon Ball, Watership Down, a ton of stuff. Go give him a check out. Guys, this was a lot of fun. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I mean, I agree.
It was. Let's do some stunts and go on Dust Boat.
For sure. I'll see you guys. I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.